In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, 3 brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Brian Fry, Chad Robinson, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears. Hello, all you lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I'm your host, Russell Guest, and joining me today is my good friend and co-host, right here in the great city of Pittsburgh, Chad Robinson.
Hi, Russell Guest.
Chad, we need a good guest today.
Well, once again, I have not done a good job. I am antisocial, so I have summoned my wife.
That's a good guest.
That too.
So it is Valentine's Day, so it's fitting to have a loving couple on the air.
I miss Brian.
So, Sarah, let's get to know you just a little better for those who don't know you that well on the show.
Okay.
So, a couple of fun questions to get you started here. What is your favorite on-screen movie kiss?
The first one I thought of was Spider-Man.
That's mine too.
Somewhere Brian is just seething.
That's mine too. The upside down?
Yeah, I mean...
The mask half pulled down?
And she doesn't know who she's really kissing? I mean, seriously.
That's great.
But she does. She touches her lips and is like, it's Peter Parker.
No. It's there's a hint, but not for sure. Chad's shaking his head no. What's yours?
Lady and the Tramp, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's iconic as well.
Yeah, Bond over spaghetti.
Okay. And what is your favorite Valentine's Day memory card for Chad and you? Sorry.
Hopefully this is not...
So not card, sorry. What is your favorite Valentine's Day memory for you and Chad?
And hopefully you don't say, mine too.
Honestly, we're not much on the Valentine's Day dates at all.
So you watch Sleepless in Seattle, so is that it?
Yo soy muy pequeño.
So really the only one that I have really any distinct memory of would be our first one. And we actually dressed up and went to a nicer restaurant, but that's about it. Not exciting.
For me, it's easy because our first date was on Valentine's Day way back in 2004. So,
very nice.
So yeah, that's that went well.
So it seems.
Yes, and what is a movie that not many people know or think about, but you love, Sarah?
I know we're kind of talking in the theme of romance and stuff, but I'm sorry, I didn't really pick much romancy ones. The two that I thought of were Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Okay. I just love the interaction between the two stars, and then Chicken Run, which I love that movie, and Chad finds it to be ridiculous.
I forgot about Chicken Run. That's a claymated claymation movie, right?
Wallace
by the same
and
people,
Gromit.
Wallace and Gromit. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I never saw that, but...
I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sarah had me watch it.
Is it 10 years or older?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Then we can watch it.
We should not.
It's amazing having a baby. The only movies I'm watching are for this podcast right now, which means somewhere down the line when you ask me my top 10 movies from 2020, I will be useless. Today, what movie are we going to be covering?
We are going to be covering 1993's Sleepless in Seattle.
All right. Who could sleep in a time like this? So... This movie comes out in 1993, as Chad mentioned. It grosses $126.68 million. It grosses a lot of money and comes in 4th on the box office that year. Pretty strong for a movie of this genre. It comes in behind The Firm and ahead of Mrs. Doubtfire. Chad's not happy about that.
Robin Williams is great.
I love Mrs. Doubtfire. It's great. But Jurassic Park beat them all with coming in first place that year.
The best romance story.
And IMDb gives Sleepless in Seattle a 6.8, which seems a little on the low side. And the critics of Rotten Tomatoes say it's a 74%, and the audience is even higher at 75%. This got nominated for 2 awards from the Academy, and it got nominated for the Oscar for Best Original Song, for A Wink and a Smile, and Best Original Screenplay from Nora Ephron. It got nominated for 3 Golden Globes for Best Film, Musical or Comedy, Best Actor, Musical or Comedy, Tom Hanks, and Best Actress, Musical or Comedy, Meg Ryan. It didn't win any of these things, but it was nominated, and it got nominated for 2 BAFTAs as well. And it even has the recognition of being named to AFI's top 10 romantic comedies, and it is number 10. So, with that, Sarah, had you seen Sleepless in Seattle? When was your first time? What was it like coming back to it now?
I'd seen it multiple times. I saw it as a kid. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what year it was or whatever. I know it was sometime in elementary school, so it couldn't have been out that long at the time. And I thought my mom was showing me this old classic that I was supposed to watch as a female. It was something I needed to watch.
Rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. I could have told you it was probably 20 years old at that time, but it wasn't, apparently. And I've seen it off and on multiple times since then. Most of the times that I've seen it since then, I caught it on TV, and so I really would see like the second half of it and not the first half. So when I came back to watching it for this podcast, I didn't really have much recollection of the Christmas scenes. Like, I was like, oh, that happened. Like,
so you forgot the mechanism for like what sets stuff up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I knew some of the later parts of the story, but I couldn't remember the beginning. So.
Yeah. And is it holding up well for you? Is it good to come back to today?
Yes, I love love stories. So it was a love story, so it was good.
All right, so it's aging well for Sarah. Now, Chad, had you seen this one before?
I fail as our romance expert on this podcast. No, I had not seen this one.
That shocks me, actually.
Yeah, this one has escaped me until now.
Okay, and so first time to it, what was your take?
It wasn't what I thought it was. I thought we would be in Seattle a whole lot more. I thought it was going to be like a Dear Abby type article. It wasn't. It was a radio show. It's kind of expecting the corny lucky happenstance, running into each other constantly, and happy ending. So yeah,
okay,
very cliched.
And is this one that you find that you would like want to come back to? Did you like? What was your take?
It's not going to be high on the list of ones that I would rewatch.
In the scale of romantic comedies, though, okay, because this, like as you mentioned, like framing it right. This is not your genre, but even within the genre. Yeah, even within the genre. Top half, bottom half.
Bottom half. I mean, it starts off with cancer and a funeral.
Briefly, yes, that is true. I had never seen this one before. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I honestly, I jokingly said this, but it wasn't out of the question. I thought like neither of them could sleep, and they were just like walking around the neighborhood one night, and they like met each other, and then they would end up taking walks late at night and stuff like that. And so I thought it was about 2 insomniacs in the city of Seattle.
I want to see your version of this movie. I'm sold. Call Nora Ephron.
The rest of the world's closed down, and they're eating donuts at a donut shop because that's the only place that's open.
Insomniacs in Iowa.
Okay. Yeah, you could probably produce this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim Hortons would definitely get some product placement on this one. So I liked it, actually. It's funny. I remember when the movie came out, my relatives from North Carolina had come up, my aunt and uncle and their 3 daughters. They went to see it, and so did some of my family, but my mom took me to see, I believe it was Dennis the Menace in the theater, because I didn't want that mushy stuff, I said. So everybody came back and said it was good, and I said, it can't be. And you know what? After waiting 25 years, it's actually pretty good. I'm glad I got it now, though. So I had my expectations exceeded, and it has a likable cast, and it was unique. I hadn't seen a movie quite like this either, so we'll talk more on that in here in a second. So I want to warn people, though, as we proceed, there will be spoilers that lie ahead. So if you worry about spoilers for Sleepless in Seattle, you're going to want to turn this off, watch the movie, and come back and join us again later. So we'll be back after this.
Do you like movies but don't form a real connection with them? Well, maybe you don't know where to find the right kind of movie that you will truly love. Maybe you lack the confidence to fully love a movie. Do you struggle to form deep, meaningful relationships with the films you encounter? Hello there, I'm Thilke Lewis. And if you are looking to find true love but having trouble, let Thilke help you. Because if there's one thing Thilke understands, it's love. Let Thilke help you find your true cinematic love with Retro Movie Roundtable on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. In no time at all, you'll find your remarkable movies that you will fall in love with. With the helpful insights of John, Brian, and Russell, you will soon learn what you need to know about movies. Don't hide your cinematic love that you found with Retro Movie Roundtable. Share it with the world. Tell a friend. Subscribe to the show. Give a show 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Like the show on Facebook. Email at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. Finding a long-lasting love can be hard, but with the Retro Movie Roundtable, you too will be in love with movies. What are you waiting for? Listen to Retro Movie Roundtable now and find love.
And we're back. Remember, there will be spoilers that lie ahead. Sarah, for those who haven't seen Sleepless in Seattle since 1993, do you want to refresh people's memory?
I suppose so. So, in Sleepless in Seattle, Sam Baldwin, played by Tom Hanks, is an architect from Chicago. His wife dies in the opening scenes. While mourning, he decides he needs a new scene that does not remind him of his deceased wife. He and his son Jonah move to Seattle. On Christmas Eve, Jonah is so concerned for his dad that he calls into a national radio broadcast for help for his dad. Sam is eventually convinced to speak and pours his heart out to the host about his grief he is still dealing with a year after his wife's passing. Meanwhile, in Baltimore, Annie Reed is newly engaged, celebrating Christmas Eve with her family and fiancé. She has a conversation with her mother about the relationship, and Annie is clearly having doubts. On her way home that night, she hears the radio show that Sam, aka Sleepless in Seattle, is talking on. She becomes somewhat obsessed, along with many women across the country. Annie writes a letter to him, but does not send it. In the letter, she asks Sam to meet her at the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day. She also did some investigation work to find where Sam was and flies out to find him. She does, but chooses not to reveal who she is and instead only says hello the entire time she is there. Seems like a waste of a few $100 to me, but, whatever. Meanwhile, Sam starts to date, but Jonah does not like the new girlfriend. Jonah reads through some of the fan mail his father had received and comes across Annie's letter that her friend, played by Rosie O'Donnell, had sent. He sends a response that Sam will be at the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day to meet her. Jonah manages to get a flight to New York with the help of his friend. Sam chases his son to New York and finds him at the top of the Empire State Building. They leave just as Annie arrives. Then they realize the backpack was left upstairs. When they get back to the top, Annie has the backpack and Jonah's bear. Sam and Annie hold hands and head out, hopefully to live happily ever after.
All right. So this one, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as versed in this kind of movie, but this is pretty unique because the two actors only share, I think it is about 2 to 3 minutes.
It's 2 minutes
of screen time together, which is
really
shocking. There's nothing else quite like that, is there?
No, that's really, really unusual. I can't think of any other movie that the two lead that fall in love
are in separate cities, and
it's interesting because the movie does operate in two different worlds, and it's you kind of know where it's going, but how it happens is kind of keeping you engaged, and it did for me. And I remember looking down at 45 minutes. I was going like, I don't know how long this movie is, but they're still setting the table up. I mean, they haven't hit it off yet. Yeah. I'm a little surprised.
When it started with Meanwhile in Baltimore, it's like, wait, what? Why? I also want to point out, like, you moved from Chicago to Seattle in '93 to get away from memory of Chicago. Yeah, the Sonics got to see a lot of Chicago about this time.
But that's true. It's one of those things where I liked it to see. It felt authentic to me in a way that I could see somebody literally just saying they wanted to change the pace and going out there, and I felt like the dialogue wasn't forced, nor were the situations that forced. The only thing that really hit me over, like made me suspend my belief, was everybody was listening to the radio on Christmas Eve.
Right.
It was 1993.
In 93, but at a late night hour, too.
The dark ages, when people listen to radio and podcasts.
On my second time through, I was kind of amused. It was like, everybody in the diner's like listening in on this. It's like, oh, wait, shh, come back.
They had no customers.
That's true.
The 1950s diner in the middle of Baltimore. Yep.
There's a 1950s kitchen in the middle of Baltimore, too.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. But I think to some degree what you mentioned, Sarah, you thought this movie was older.
Yeah, I did when I watched it. Now, I don't think I watched it immediately the year that it came out, but it had to have been within a couple years. I wasn't very aware of pop culture at that time either, so my concept at the time was not very good.
Rosie O'Donnell's corporate America attire can only belong to one time period. Technically, this is a little bit later than you would even think for that, but I mean...
Tom Hanks' hair is pretty...
Oh, yeah. So, but there are a lot of cues that make you think it's older. Maybe not physically as much, but I mean, there's a tone of the golden age of Hollywood. They refer to An Affair to Remember.
A lot
throughout the movie. And I have not seen this movie. Have you?
No, but it's now on our list to see.
No. Rest assured, podcast listeners, we will not be doing Affair to Remember.
You said you thought you needed to see it now.
No, I feel like after this movie, it's been... I know everything I need to know about this movie. I don't even need to see it. They summarize it multiple times.
They did spoil it a little bit for me, but I'd still see it. I'm very spoiler adverse, and that did not help things for me.
It was interesting seeing Professor Stein crying over it, though.
That's right. Yeah,
Victor Garber.
Yeah. So this is labeled as a romantic comedy, and my first time through, I didn't find myself like laughing, like ha 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 belly laughs, but I just had a big grin on my face. The second time watching it through, I was specifically watching for these things, and I did find myself laughing a little more the second time through. Sarah, how much laughter does this movie give you, or are you more just there for the sentimentality?
I was laughing, and Chad just kind of looked at me like I was a crazy person, but I specifically really enjoyed the interaction between the father and the son, and I felt like that was where a lot of the comedy was driven from. And so that would make sense why Chad wouldn't find it quite as amusing as I did. He doesn't,
it's true.
Doesn't always find the children to be quite as amusing.
Children.
Young actors.
Drew Barrymore's still okay.
So there is a lot of humor in the blunt communication from an 8-year-old, very direct, and less filter, more matter of fact, and it just makes for good comedy.
This is my second movie in a row that's had comedy in the hyphen, and it hasn't been funny at all. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was much funnier.
Yeah, that's a drama. That's a drama, I think. First and foremost.
This was sheer romance. There really wasn't that many humorous scenes. Like you can drop the calm from it. I'm fine if you just want to call this romance.
No, there was comedy.
One or two scenes does not make a comedy.
I don't know what the tall tale signs are of the tell signs are of a chick flick per se, but I didn't necessarily come out of this going like that was a chick flick per se. I know it probably is categorized as such, but it didn't seem to have the typical arc of like these two meet, he seems great, but then he's hiding something, and then things fall apart, and then a somewhat easily resolvable miscommunication is undone by a large action. It didn't go through any of that, so it kind of doesn't fit that mold. Fair statement or not, Chad? You like to dissect these things more.
Yeah, it wasn't the dumb conflict in the middle for no apparent reason. Although Meg Ryan's conflict was pretty much with herself and being a good person or a bad person. But she that was the main conflict of, do I stay with my fiance or do I go after a stranger with sultry voice?
Well, also there's the conflict that the father and the son are going through.
A little bit. His was more of just, I'm going to try and get in the swing of things, and this son's like, no, you should marry a lady who likes baseball, because he's a kid, and, kids want people that like baseball. And think, I don't know which player it was, I can't remember, that he's like, she thinks he's the greatest. Tom Hanks is like, everybody does.
But they don't. That was an obscure player.
Yeah,
from my standpoint.
I had no idea who that was.
So that was it. That they had an instant connection. It's one of those things.
Yeah, serendipity.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just, I thought it was interesting in the DVD extras, Tom Hanks was saying that dating is terrible, that nobody over the age of 20 should have to do it. It's torture. It's one of those funny things where it shows you how hard it would be to get out there again.
Yeah.
I hope I'd never do it, because it does seem awkward, and so it's one of those things that I don't ever think about. So it's like when he starts to do it, it's just kind of like, man, that would be hard. Everybody's like,
well, and
it's just
especially
different.
since he had the kid involved, that makes it extra complicated to try to find a woman that he likes and that the kid liked and didn't call a hoe, and
Yeah, that was
He's been captured by a hoe.
Use a hoe.
You did not laugh at that, no?
No.
Because that did make me laugh.
No, that was an odd statement. There were a lot of strange things going on. Like, they were eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night. The 8-year-old had...
They're in the Pacific time zone, Chad. That's 10 o'clock for you.
It's not, no, it's not the Bermuda Triangle. They said 10 o'clock at night. I was like, what 8-year-old had a 10 o'clock
They
bedtime?
said that's where the points of everything come together. And he's like, what's that? The Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. It's there was a lot of strange parenting going on there. But
well, he was a guy.
Rob
Didn't know what he
Reiner
was doing.
had
True.
some weird advice, and I kind of want to live in the world that Rob Reiner was advertising.
Do you want some tiramisu?
Well, yeah, I've had tiramisu, but
What's that?
he's just like, if you pay for everything, they'll throw a parade for you. No parades have ever been thrown in my honor. Where is this world where the check is picked up or split? I got none of this treatment.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have told Sarah, though, if she ever leaves me, I'm going to be a hermit, because I'm not going through what Tom Hanks went through. Or I'm calling a nationally syndicated radio show.
Yeah.
I'm very sad with a daughter. Please write me letters and stalk me. Hire private investigators.
No, but he got on very reluctantly. He was not, he had been offered help from so many times, and he had not taken it, as he was
Yeah.
handed a huge stack of cards. Which, by the way, if anybody hands you a card, it's like, it's a shrink. You should see somebody. That's not a very nice way of saying you might need to talk to someone. I'm not equipped to do this.
How else do you tell somebody?
Not using the word shrink.
Okay.
Well, there were a lot of different
At your
cards.
desk.
There were like Widowers Anonymous or whatever, and
Yeah.
grief counseling. He had a collection of them.
Some of them had catchy names.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if Chad questioned me if I was enjoying this one because of Tom Hanks being an architect, but I do have to say, like, sometimes they just throw away. It's a throwaway position that, it's somewhat tangible. It has props like a drawing board that are around. This movie dug into that a little bit more than usual, and he even had a job site visit. So I kind of give this movie credit for, a lot of times people can watch a movie with an architect and go like, I don't know what they do. Like, it seems glamorous, and like they have nice cars and nice houses and everything like that. And this movie more properly sets it.
That lady was dropped like midway through. They made her seem like she was going to be this huge antagonist that constantly changes things, and she shows up once more in a phone call.
You can only have but so much of that.
I kind of wanted more of her just being unreasonable.
Yeah, well, and then Rob Reiner, that was a surprise. Director Rob Reiner coming in, he made me laugh as well. And this is one of those things where I kind of had to come back through it a second time and go like, why didn't I laugh the first time? There's good stuff here. I just was more like just taking it in, I think. And I was more like, when are they going to meet? When are they going to meet?
You couldn't concentrate on anything else.
It was in my head, I'm not going to lie. So the next time around, I was like, this is going to work out fine. Chad had also told me ahead of time, this movie's not for me. I wasn't a big fan, and I don't know what you're going to think. And then I got to the end, and he walks in the elevator as she's walking out, and I'm sitting there going, oh, well, that's why he doesn't like this movie. They got me. They actually got me there.
It didn't get Chad.
No.
I was prepared for something bad to happen because of you telling me.
You could even see the backpack. It's like they forgot the backpack and they're going to come back.
Yeah.
I was hoping there was a backpack there, but I wasn't for sure.
Oh, man.
No, he knew.
I wanted there to be a backpack.
You would fit right in with the female audience being like, he came back.
Yes. I was like, hope that backpack's there. Is there a backpack there? I can't quite tell. Is that a strap? I mean, is there anything else behind that? Maybe it's some kind of, like information plate behind there. I don't know.
Meg Ryan was stressing me out. I was like, put the bear back. That's weird. Just put the kid's bear back in the bag. Leave it alone.
It says Seattle on it. That's a pretty dead giveaway.
Yeah, but then she kept it out. It's like, leave the kid's bear alone. That's sacred.
She handed it to him.
Eventually. If I were Jonah, I'd be like, I've changed my mind. Give me my bear.
She took my bear.
Yeah. That's sacred.
But yeah, like I have to have that end. Because there are some romantic comedies that I have watched that did not seal the deal that way, and I just couldn't take it.
Yeah, she's still mad about Vince Vaughn's The Breakup.
Yeah, I can't stand that movie.
I also did not like that movie at all.
Yeah. And it's because it did not end happy. They did not end up together. You thought they were going to.
I don't know.
Spoilers for Vince Vaughn's The Breakup. Not me this time. It runs in the family.
Oh, yeah. Belle's going to be going to preschool being like, you know what happens at the beginning of Land Before Time? Yeah. Well, you better get ready for this.
She has not seen that movie. That terrifies
She's
me.
seen the TV series.
Yeah.
Not the movie.
It's like, oh, well, I got some bad news about Bambi, too.
Bambi's fine. The mom, not so much.
It's Chad, do you want to give us a rundown on the cast?
Yes, I do. First up, we have Tom Hanks. He's playing architect Sam Baldwin. He's a widower whose son calls into a national radio show to help him find a new wife. If you liked him here, check out our podcast on Big. It's another one of Russell's big Tom Hanks films.
I am big on Big.
Yes. Ross Malinger plays Jonah Baldwin. That's Sam's son who just wants his dad to be happy. And if you've ever watched the TV show Recess, he's the voice of TJ.
Good kid actor.
Oh, okay. Moving on. We have Meg Ryan, who is Annie Reed. She's the plucky reporter who is engaged to Walter but finds Sam's voice too alluring to resist. You might recognize her from every 90s rom-com out there. Also, 2 other rom-coms with Tom Hanks.
2?
Yes.
You got mail.
There's another one that's escaping me, but she did 3 with Tom Hanks.
I'll have to fact check this.
Russell's going to fact check me while I talk about Bill Pullman. He plays Walter, who is Annie's safe bet fiance. His critical flaw, he has a severe allergy problem. I feel for him. Bill's also the president in Independence Day. There's Rosie O'Donnell, who plays Becky. That's Annie's best friend and encouragement. She mails Annie's letter to Sam and gets the ball rolling. If you like her with Tom Hanks in a movie, go watch A League of Their Own.
That is a good movie.
Yes, it is. Rob Reiner, we've talked about him a little bit. He plays Jay, who is Sam's friend who gives him dating advice that completely doesn't match up to my experience. You might recognize him as Mike Meathead Stivic from All in the Family. And last for me is Barbara Garrick. She plays Victoria, who is Sam's coworker who he begins dating. She apparently has been in One Life to Live for like almost 2 decades. She plays Allison Perkins. So I have no idea, but if you watch One Life to Live, apparently you've had 2 decades to notice her.
Okay. And you are right. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan have worked together 4 times, actually.
Oh, wow.
Joe versus the Volcano from 1990. Sleepless in Seattle so this was their second effort. They came back together again for You Got Mail in 1998, and they worked together again in 2016 on a movie called Ithaca, which I was not aware of Joe versus the Volcano or Ithaca.
Yeah, I've heard of Joe versus the Volcano. So 3 rom-coms in the 90s.
And You've Got Mail runs in that format that you thought Sleepless in Seattle would.
They can't sleep?
No. There are a series of events. They meet. Things go wrong. They realize they like each other.
Sleepwalking email.
Yeah, no.
All right, so Dennis Quaid was considered to be the first male lead. Ironically, he was married to Meg Ryan at the time. They later divorced in 2001. But, which they could have gotten You Got Mail in there as well if they were going to go on that same trajectory before they might have needed to start in the breakup.
Wow.
So,
The kid just recently got divorced too, so happiness all around.
yeah. Anyway, now, do you want Dennis Quaid in this movie, Chad? Would that help matters for you?
I like Tom Hanks. I'm fine with Tom Hanks in here. I did see Annie was offered to like 13 other people before Meg Ryan.
It was originally offered to Julia Roberts, which that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
In fairness, Kim Basinger was then offered the role, and then other people were considered. A lot of people turned down the script, thinking it didn't seem like this was going to work, and so Michelle Pfeiffer, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Jodie Foster, Meg Ryan finally landed the role. Other considerations, though, included Nicole Kidman, Natasha Richardson, and Demi Moore.
Yeah.
So. You're right. A lot of considerations there. So, I don't know. I can't picture anybody else in it now that I've seen Meg Ryan in it, though.
I think I would have liked just about any of those better.
Really?
I'm surprised Helen...
Any of the... Okay. Nicole Kidman would not be.
Yeah,
No.
that's the one I'll throw out. But I'm surprised with all those names, and it seems somewhat similar, that Helen Hunt wasn't in the mix, too.
I also know Jodie Foster this doesn't feel like a movie she would take.
Right.
Like, I feel like they should have known better. Like, if someone's like, what about Jodie Foster? It's like, you know better.
She's coming off of Silence of the Lambs. She should probably do this.
Is it right around the time of Contact or somewhere in there? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
she chose wisely.
I don't know, man. I'd rather watch this than Contacts.
Fair enough.
Talk about movies that don't have payoffs.
All right.
Long 3-hour movie as well.
I haven't seen that.
Well, I told you how long it was. That's the first thing you need
I don't
to know.
think it's going to be on my list.
Nora Ephron, though, managed to get Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan because they were suddenly in another vehicle that was canceled called Ends of New England. And it's one of those funny things. So that movie got canceled for budgetary reasons, and they ended up both coming over to this, obviously at different times and through different routes. But it was Kismet, and it was meant to be.
Yep. Fate. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Magic.
Just infuriating.
Real quick, is it the whole like being taken by somebody so quickly that that's not working for you?
I don't think lack of magic at instant touch is reason for infidelity. So, but and especially my story with Sarah turned me down when I first asked her out. So this entire story makes me sad and makes me think, maybe she's holding out for that magic person.
Who said we don't have magic?
You, when you said no.
You're just a slow burn, as you put it.
Yes, I am. I am like a 7-year itch. Actually, it took about 12. So I wore her down, people.
We have magic.
Yes.
I had to be very patient with Mary because she was dating somebody at the time. So I guess I'm the Tom Hanks in this equation. But imagine waiting 6 months for that to fall apart, and then not waiting for it to fall apart and just saying like, hey, if you were interested in not dating him, I would be interested in dating you. That was more smooth right now than it was at the time. But it worked. And I'm glad I did it.
There you go.
Yeah, I love her. So it worked out fantastically. She's every bit worth the wait.
I felt magic. It was just the other end.
There were extenuating circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So Mrs. Tom Hanks in the beginning of this movie is Carey Lowell, which do we know where we know her from? Or I know for sure I know her from something, but Chad, did you recognize her?
I did not.
She is a Bond girl.
Really?
She's from License to Kill.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the relatively tough one who's ample with a shotgun and can kick some butt. American Agent in that one. So, in Everything Is Copy, a 2015 documentary Nora Ephron's life and career, Tom Hanks reveals that there was another child actor cast for the character son of Jonah before Ross Malinger, but Ephron thought the first kid was not working out, so she cut him.
Yeah, he was fired.
Well, that's what being cut means.
I just like that the kid got fired.
Well, you just put your heart on this kid.
Yeah.
Maybe you like the first kid.
How much worse was the first kid?
He got the Marty McFly treatment because the original Marty McFly was, I forget the actor's name, but there was another actor who they went substantially into Back to the Future on. And
really?
Then they canned it and threw everything in the garbage and then went and got Michael J. Fox and you know, he had a hard to work with schedule. Yeah, it was, and it was electric. Then it worked, and because it wasn't working before. Because I was sitting there going like, oh, how bad would that hurt to like have that role and then have it taken away? I mean, Sleepless in Seattle, that would hurt too as a kid because you're like, that's a big movie. But I mean, on the other hand, Back to the Future, and then you got to watch the sequels come out. It's like, oh, there's a second one. There's a third one. This is a cultural icon. Meanwhile, I can't think of his name for a reason.
Yeah.
So.
Sleepless in Seattle would have an interesting sequel. You were talking sequel.
Oh yeah, this movie could use a sequel.
Where Meg Ryan hears a sultry podcast person and suddenly gets butterflies and has to rush out to find the podcast host.
I don't think it's going to happen again because it was magic this time. Because that's why Tom Hanks just was in the airport and was like struck. It's like, hey, you've got presents.
Not to be too hard on Meg Ryan, but if she gets off an airplane, I can't imagine she's the type of stop mid-speech and stare.
In fairness, is Tom Hanks that? Because that's another reason. I'm not sure this is a chick flick. I'll go into that now. I've never heard anybody be like, I mean, Tom Hanks, everybody likes him, but like I've never heard anybody like, oh, Tom Hanks, he's dreamy.
I brought this up to Sarah. It was a revelation for me. I was like, you know what? No one in this movie is overly attractive. Like, it's completely different than, you know, we did How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, when everyone, including the friends and the coworkers, are all really attractive people. No one in this movie. You've got Rob Reiner, the girl that played Victoria, wasn't overly attractive. Meg Ryan.
Rosie O'Donnell's not doing it for you?
She does not, sir.
But I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It feels more
authentic.
Yeah, because like I'm not looking to find a dreamboat. I'm looking, and this sounds terrible.
I am sitting right here.
I love you.
She wanted our wedding theme to be Beauty and the Beast, which there was only one option. I could go there. I wasn't going to be Beauty.
So, okay.
Taking the year. I love it.
So,
Yeah. Please get the shovel. Keep digging.
No. I am not attracted to...
Ouch.
The...
She's going to say attractive people.
No, to the like really done up male and the one that's got the ego. I like the guy that's in the corner on the wall, and you wonder who he is and what he's got to give, and
I've wondered that about you.
And that is who I have, and that's a good thing.
She married the kicked puppy.
No,
it's the interesting guy that just doesn't have to show his ego and show his
entitlement.
Yeah, it's the one that's just, he is who he is, and that's okay, and that's a good thing. And
Hanks does seem comfortable in his own skin.
And so that's an authentic thing about this to me, and I don't mean it in a way that I'm trying to shovel myself out. That
You do have better hair than Tom Hanks in this
there
movie
are
as well.
other
Thank you.
actors that I like that people wouldn't really say they're on their top actors.
Matt
that have
Damon.
Well, he's just good looking, but
Undo the things that I said for that person.
Also Thor, so really I'm just lying.
like I like the characters in movies that are not the primary characters a lot of times, and I feel like the Tom Hanks character is a little bit more in that vein of personality.
Yeah, she likes Justin Long.
Yeah.
No, I think that, to my point though, I'm not sure this is or should be titled a chick flick, because I mean there's a component of, and I totally get it why women, there's certain roles, like when they put like a very blatantly attractive woman in a movie, in a guy type movie, and then she's not really doing anything, and I'm pretty sure that irritates female audiences. Is that a fair assumption? Yeah. And I think that's the same thing that, like, in a chick flick, sometimes the guys often get turned off when they're just sitting there going like, it's like, take off the shirt, yes, and like you're waiting for that, and then like the slow motion, and
I'm totally fine with Matthew McConaughey taking off his shirt. It's just one of those things that's like, you work to get in that shape, it's fine. When Chris Hemsworth takes off his shirt as Thor, it's like, yeah, I get it.
The most revealing Tom Hanks was a hooded sweatshirt. Which might be the same hooded sweatshirt from when he was in Big.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe he's 13 years old.
Oh.
Although we kind of talked about the attractiveness element or unattractiveness element, and Chad was like, that never happens, but it's been happening more and more recently, at least in some of the romantic comedies, de-emphasizing beauty, I guess is the better way to put it. We thought of a couple. Trainwreck was one of them.
Yeah.
What was another?
Yeah. I mean, they're both charming people in their own right, but you're right. They're neither of them.
Right.
You're not going to open up a magazine and see them.
There were a couple others we thought of. I can't remember what they were though.
I feel like Always Be My Maybe is possibly debatable.
Adam Sandler always does this for
that was another one.
But he always surrounds himself with
with
very attractive ladies.
Well, we were talking about that. The problem is, like, every Seth Rogen movie ever. Like, Seth Rogen is the unattractive guy who's with a very out of his league girl. Charlize Theron.
I was going to say, I do not care for Katherine Heigl, but that's another
I don't either, but Charlize Theron, Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah. No, that's a valid point. But this movie felt, again, authentic in that way, too. And, and we're not going to be mean to any of them, because neither of them look like a potato and a foot.
Right.
So. And a young Jason Schwartzman auditioned for the role of Jonah Baldwin.
I saw that.
So would you prefer to have Scott Pilgrim versus the world's very own Jason Schwartzman in the role here instead, as the kid?
No.
I don't want a kid at all, but...
You have to have a kid in this movie.
Why?
It kind of moves the plot a little.
What do you think the phone call happens? Bring, bring. Hello, I'm a doctor. I'd like to talk. Okay. I'll tell you all my problems. Thanks.
No, I want my idea, the Dear Abby, where he writes in and saying, I'm having a hard time sleeping. I lost my wife, and it's been difficult for me. And I'm
rewriting this entire movie.
Yep, so...
No, I don't want the movie I thought. I was kidding. I've overjudged it on the title. I could do that with all kinds of movies.
And Jason Schwartzman, we'll see. Maybe in a different timeline, a different life, but...
Now, one movie I'd like to see, and I've never seen, is When Harry Met Sally, and this is a movie that Nora Ephron wrote as well. I'd not seen it, but Sarah, you have, right?
Yes.
Do you see similarities in, like, the sensibility of the humor, the writing, and the character construction?
It has a lot more of the friends first. So that it's a little bit different in that there's a lot of togetherness on screen.
More than 2 minutes?
Yes. But in a way, it is kind of because it's not that same arc that you were speaking to, per se. It's they meet each other and they click right away, but they're not romantically clicked. And so in that way it's similar because it's not romance.
More normal looking people in movies.
Have you? You said you haven't seen that one either, did you?
I've seen parts of it,
Yeah.
but I haven't
part?
seen it. Well, especially the most famous scene, but I've seen others past the dining scene,
Yeah.
but just never contiguous. It's one of those like you turn it on and TBS has it on every.
I have seen the
third
dining
Sunday.
scene several times, but that's all I've seen, and I'm intrigued to go see
It's worth
more.
a watch.
Yeah.
It's worth a watch.
Well, after this, I'm more enthusiastic to see it at some point because I think that this was written at a, like I said, at a higher level. And honestly, Nora Ephron was asked if she felt like it was a chick flick, and she says, I don't think so. I think if you write enough comedy into it, the males will find their way into the story, and then without even realizing it, they're find themselves finding their way to the emotion of the story as well. And it's just a movie at that point that everybody can enjoy. And I don't, like I said, I put, that's what spurred my mind on that. I was like, this, I don't think this was conceived as that, and I think it kind of elevates itself out of that. It's just a good love story.
I would say there's probably a little more comedy
Yes.
in Harry Met Sally.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's still it doesn't, it's not traditional romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Did you catch Nora Ephron in this movie?
Is she in it?
She is one of the phone calls. She is the voice of Depressed in Denver.
Desperate in Denver.
Or Desperate, yeah.
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 Okay, did not know that. Good,
Yeah,
good ear, I should say.
She likes to insert herself in her movies, and it's always a fun cameo.
I like it when directors do that. Hitchcock used to do that. Like, he used to just be walking around the background, like reading a newspaper.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wes Craven does it in all of his movies. Stan Lee, although.
Yeah, but yeah, those are in your face, but I love those too.
Quentin Tarantino's usually in his.
Yep. And it was interesting. Nora Ephron was also asked about in that same interview how she writes the male and female perspectives in a way that seems more genuine. So I'm not the first person to say this about her. She said when working on When Harry Met Sally, Rob Reiner, who's in this movie, was the director on that, and the two of them had a strong chemistry with working together. She was coming from a female perspective, and he would often challenge and or fill in from the male perspective. And she had a good sense for those things, but in a way that she said it kind of confirmed and informed those things. And that's even just working with Rob throughout the years and coming back and writing this, that was an experience that she had as a writer. And so that's just part of her gift. Because I will admit, I didn't feel like anybody was a flat character in this.
I definitely feel like they wasted David Hyde Pierce. I know it was his first role.
Yeah, this is pre-Frasier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right before it, but he was a psychologist talking about Seattle. I was like, well...
You never know. He might not have gotten the job without this.
Yeah.
So.
It was just an odd casting. Like, I figured he'd be the in-law, but he was actually supposed to be related to Meg Ryan. Like, this doesn't work.
They're both blonde. Sure.
And he wasn't funny. Yeah, it was sad.
He kind of was. He was a little deadpan.
Yeah.
He was he was so serious it was funny kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like overly practical.
Yeah, he just didn't get to bust out the comedic chops like Niles and Frasier.
Yeah, and I mean,
Well, that wasn't the
it's
role.
it's early in his career, so
Yeah.
yeah.
It was his first role, I think.
There's a lot of celebration in this. Again, they are laying it on very heavily with the references to an affair to remember. But it was interesting. Nora Ephron was saying this isn't just a movie about love; it's about love in the movies and how the idea of falling in love quickly informs people's idea, sometimes perhaps wrongfully so at times, but of what falling in love would feel like. And at one point they had a very self-aware moment where Rosie O'Donnell's like, you don't want to be in love, you want to be in love in the movies. And that was another thing that helped me kind of like, it's like, oh, breaking the fourth wall, like this is different. So
this is what people loved about Frozen, because that's kind of a trope about Disney movies, but Frozen, Elsa winds up telling Anna, who has this kind of Disney moment of, I just met someone and I'm so in love and we're getting married. She's like, you can't marry someone you just met. And that was kind of revolutionary for Disney movies.
Well, tons of movies do that, and this movie kind of playfully, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, goes off that notion, because there are people around him saying, or like Tom Hanks himself is like, I'm not going to go over to Baltimore.
I did like the pointing on the map, the little geography lesson.
Yes, this was a good movie for maps.
Yes.
Do you know where Oklahoma is? Somewhere in the middle. Not wrong.
He was disappointed in the school system for saying that, but I feel like had you asked anyone that wasn't around the state of Oklahoma where Oklahoma was, and they would have said the exact same thing.
Looks like a pointing finger.
Frying pan.
Yeah.
We appreciate you in the frying pan state. And so, Sarah, as a director, though, Nora Ephron also wrote and kind of produced this, but as a director, she comes in. It was actually going to be Gary Marshall to do this, brother Penny Marshall, who, by the way, she directed Tom Hanks in Big, so this movie's all connecting into Big, and A League of Their Own too. So, so not Penny Marshall, not Gary Marshall. It was then going to go over to Nick Castle, and then it went to producer Gary Foster sought Nora Ephron to rewrite the screenplay, and they disagreed. And Ephron ended up wanting to do the film herself, so she, out of screenplay role, moving into the director. Did you like her as a director, Sarah?
Yeah, I think so. The pace was a little... could have picked up a little bit, I felt like. But, to your point, you were constantly wanting them to just meet. And so I think that felt like the pace was slower. So, but I think that was an element of it, too. Is that they're not supposed to really...
When it picks up fast.
Yeah.
Because I thought that we were going to say, this movie's going to be a while, because
we're laying moving a little slow.
We're laying the groundwork still. Because I was sitting there going, this is going to be a 2-hour plus movie, isn't it? It's not.
No. But, yeah, I appreciated that more after the fact. The fact why the pacing was the way it was. And, some of the stuff, I kind of liked just the map. We were talking about the maps. I liked just the animation of the maps that it would have between scenes and stuff. And I felt like that was kind of a cute little element to tie things together and pulled it all together. And that was one of my favorite little ditty things. And sorry.
I thought the map was kind of overused. I
liked it.
I would have liked different...
We're coming off of Indiana Jones a couple weeks back.
Yes. Another podcast episode, but Emperor's New Groove. I liked those little transitions and those animated scenes.
Yeah,
but
we had a good guest on that one.
Yeah. We should get her on again sometime.
Yes.
But
she keeps saying no.
I would have liked different versions of the map, like maybe pull out a globe, just make it a running gag, because he did bring down the big map at one time. We had the animated. I just kind of wanted a theme instead of
There was a theme. It was the same map.
Yeah, like someone in 1993.
You want different maps?
Yes, he had a different map. He had two.
I think that's a strange director decision on your part.
There were two different maps, and then we just kept going back to this animation.
Nick Castle wanted, and he couldn't see eye to eye with Nora. And Nora's like, I think the map should be the same every time, Nick. And he's like, no, I quit. It's got to be different maps every time.
The Nick Castle is a genius. Listen to this man. I don't know what he's done, and I'm afraid of what I've just said. But considering this lady made Michael and Bewitched and Julia, Nick Castle may have had a point.
I guess, kind of moving, one of the other things I kind of liked was the house in Seattle. I thought it was interesting how it was like right on the water.
That's so Seattle.
Yeah, and really emphasizing that, and it was kind of a theme without being a spoken theme, and I liked that, and I thought the house was neat and the scenery was neat.
With absolutely no knowledge of Seattle geography.
No,
I don't.
The floating house is a big thing in Seattle.
Yeah, but you cannot row a boat from their house to the beach.
Erroneous.
Nor could you follow them in a car.
That was a sweet scene.
Yeah, that was fine. I'm okay with that.
No, I mean, the literal geography was impossible. You cannot do that.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not.
I'm still okay with that.
I am not. You can't row your boat.
I was going to say this for a little bit later, but I'm going to blow your mind. This Baltimore house where they walk out of, like on the bay, it's in Seattle too.
Is it? I thought you were going to say Toronto, because we just make everything in Toronto. That would have made me happy.
So they just said it was Baltimore, and they were in Seattle.
You're gonna tell me the Empire State Building was a model, and that was in Toronto too.
Well, okay. I've got some bad news, but I'm holding on to that for a little bit later. One thing that I loved, one thing I liked that Nora Ephron put in there was the little sugar cubes at the diner as he was nervous,
which change constantly throughout the scene.
I like it because it's to me it's a little bit nod back to Big. I could see Tom Hanks in Big doing that on a date being nervous, and so it just shows his nerves, and he was checking his hair 9 times and really nervous, and I think that was a nice little touch to have him continue doing that. And to that point, Tom Hanks made a lot of suggestions along the way, and Nora Ephron's not a super controlling director. I love this about directors when they listen to the people, and Hanks would even tell her, I don't think my character would do that, and she would take that and say okay. And so it's cool that part of the reason that this works so well is not just her writing, but Hanks critically looked at his character and made it better too. So part writer, part actor at the same time. What are your... Okay, so as far as... I know you're a little more critical on this movie. Are there any shortcomings in the directions?
I'm going to keep harping on, multiple things. But I didn't like the distance. I didn't like that they started apart. I thought that was odd. It takes too long for them to get together. And her directions of Meg Ryan hiding behind a shed, watching them, or... hiring a private eye, you reverse the genders and you've got a horror movie on your hands. Can you hear the horror music or the Halloween music kicking in as Meg Ryan's standing on the road just staring at Tom Hanks?
Because we know Meg Ryan's character, it's not creepy?
It was still creepy behind the shed when she's peeking out.
I vote for not creepy. Sarah?
I didn't think it was creepy until I had him watching it with me, and yeah... I'm still good with it, but...
No, ladies.
I hear him in my ear.
Do not stalk your man across the country and hide behind sheds staring at him playing with his son.
Well, you put it that way.
Yeah.
But we got to know her before then, so as the audience, we're okay with it.
I still think it was a waste of a plane ticket, but...
Well, she... to add to her character
she thought the sister was the hoe.
Yeah.
Because the haircut's the same from the back, because she paid a private investigator to take pictures of him. And
to continue on the theme of Meg Ryan is actually a horrible person, she got her company to pay for it, so it wasn't even her money.
She's writing an article.
Yeah, she didn't, though, unless her article is, hello.
We need a sequel. We need Sleepless in Seattle 2. The article could come out.
And that's where you get your conflict.
There you go.
He realizes it's all about an article.
We could get the same kid back, too.
This is what I was talking to Sarah about. Is she just going to omit this part of her history for the rest of her life? Because one day they're going to be sitting down and she's going to be like, it's a funny story. I hired a private investigator to check you out, and I stalked you. I lied to my company.
Hey, one of the Sam Baldwin's had jail time on his record.
Yeah, but it wasn't the architect.
True.
She's just no, that can't be him. It's why not? There's an equal chance that he's murdered some people, and he's a sweet guy with his son playing football on the beach.
And so we've talked about atmosphere a little bit. I do want to talk about that. Sarah, did you like the cross-country, two worlds kind of theme and kind of the physical reinforcement they had of you're in this city, you're in this city?
Yeah, I did. They were two different... Both the people came from two different worlds, so emphasizing that, and they had different backgrounds. So I liked the physical separation.
I did too.
And I felt like it kind of drove that story along. How were they going to meet? And it's always a one... Because you're watching a romance. Somehow they're going to meet. How is that going to happen if they're a country away? That doesn't make any sense.
Maybe there's a trilogy. This is just the first one. It takes 3 movies to walk a ring to a mountain. I mean, it might take a little bit of time to meet.
Don't get me started on Lord of the Rings.
I could have used some Gollum or Smeagol here.
All right. But in addition to on-screen location or on-set locations, the house scenes were filmed in Seattle, as we mentioned. The Baltimore ones were as well, and a lot of the sets for the inside of the New York and Baltimore sets were actually just done in an airport hangar in Seattle. So most of this movie's done in Seattle. Even the final meeting between Sam and Annie, that was filmed on a Seattle set that had been made up to look like the observation deck of the Empire State Building. And the
Sounds cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. The heart that's on the Empire State Building, that was CGI. They didn't even go in and light the room of the Empire State Building, obviously. And you can definitely tell it's CGI at the end when the building's rotating. But there's, and they're zooming out to the stars and from the different... Hey, you got your different map there at the end, by the way.
There we go. This movie has made it a nightmare for Valentine's Day for the Empire State Building. It's like a 3-hour wait now because a bunch of single women all go up there hoping to meet their perfect man. So this movie has started an awful tradition.
But I thought, so they went to the Seattle market, which was like very Seattle. There's a scene, they didn't rub it in your face with the Space Needle, but they drove by and they zoomed up, and unexpectedly so, like, it's like, oh, there's the Space Needle. And there's just certain scenes as they're driving around and that are very lush and green. So I give them credit. They boasted Seattle, and they were Seattle even when they said they weren't.
I still want to think of tossed salad and scrambled eggs when Seattle comes up, not...
Now, the airport was truly sad at that point in time, because I went to the Seattle airport with Mary back in like 2010, and it was a really nice airport. And then I was like, so I had this like, oh, they've made changes later. This airport is a dog.
It's Mothman prophecies in the Charleston Marriott. Yeah. That is not what our Marriott looks like, darn it. It's classy.
Now, the thing that I thought aesthetically that was the most aged, probably the most aged thing about this movie, well, the cars were pretty aged. But
yeah, the cars were stunningly old, like 70s.
I didn't remember the cars being that bad at that point. but I guess they could be. But what do you think about, I think Tom Hanks has ripped off Jerry Seinfeld's look. When he's going to the baseball game, he's got his shirt tucked in such a way, and the jean cut is the same, the hair. Like, he's got Seinfeld's hair.
There's a soup Nazi reference in this movie. Did you catch that?
I did not.
Oh, yeah. One of the coworkers, when they're leaving a building in New York, he makes a reference to the meanest guy in the world, but he makes the best soup you've ever had. And this was pre-Seinfeld, but early soup Nazi.
So it's not a reference, then?
It winds up being. I don't know if Jerry Seinfeld built on this, but I thought that was really fun. Of like, there's a New York soup Nazi in this movie.
Well, there's a Frasier reference, too.
Yeah, well, brief phrase. Typecasting.
Yeah. And did you feel like I thought, first, I didn't realize Meg Ryan ever had long hair.
Really?
Yeah, that threw me off.
Oh, this is kind of how I picture her.
I don't know what movie I'm thinking of Meg Ryan being in, per se, but this is not the Meg Ryan I thought I was getting. I don't know. No, sorry.
I even said when it first came on, I was like, I don't remember her looking that young.
That's fair.
It's like going back and watching a movie and Bruce Willis having hair all of a sudden. It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's like they're two different people. It's like Sean Connery's James Bond, but he's also like Dr. Jones. But they're not the same person in my mind, and I can't reconcile that difference.
Doesn't that make a good actor then?
Yes, but also it confuses me. So, this movie is chock full of old tunes, and I think that goes a long way to what you were describing. The old movie references from the golden age of Hollywood, as they put it sometimes, and the old soundtrack. You got Nat King Cole, Louis Armstrong, Carly Simon, Joe Cocker. I mean, Ray Charles, I love that Ray Charles song.
And then Celine Dion.
Which, that song charted and did well.
I'm stunned. My Heart Will Go On didn't play on my radio for like 2 straight years.
A little bit of guilty pleasure, I actually kind of like that song.
Oh.
Yeah.
Admitted it to a national audience.
I did.
That's, I would hold on to that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's out there.
Oh.
But,
no. And Sarah's singing it. You can't really hear.
She's singing it. Yep.
Yeah. This is going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the night, and my night is
find
ruined.
it on my iTunes.
Oh.
Did you like the old Sammy soundtrack, Sarah?
I did. I'll be honest, it didn't really stand out to me, but
Does it give you a feel?
Just for the era, I think, just because that was the type of music that was in at that time. Those types of songs are a little bit thought of as cheesy at this point.
Oh, they're definitely
time.
cheesy.
But it didn't feel that way in that time period. So it really just set the setting more so than anything for me.
Making Whoopee. Actually on the soundtrack.
By Dr. John featuring Ricky Lee Jones. So it is.
Yeah.
So it is. Now, I was disappointed. If you were to go buy this, you would not get the awesome version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Ray Charles.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, why have I not heard this? I like Ray Charles. And I loved it. So if nothing else, I will be downloading that song coming out of this and remembering I'll now think of this movie because I discovered it through this. Right as a sailboat decked out in all... Christmas, like extremely decked out in Christmas, is going by. So, I was at first upset with you guys for picking a Christmas movie in February, and then later New Year's happened, and then it goes to Valentine's Day, so I felt better in the end. But my first thought was, what have you guys done?
Yeah.
This is a Christmas movie. You can't do this now.
Russell's like, I'm not going to choose Love Actually. It's a Christmas movie. Immediately chooses a movie that starts at Christmas.
I was upset with myself for a while. And then
Christmas does not last very long.
It does not. You're right. It finishes on Valentine's Day, so
yes, it does.
Yeah, all was rectified by the end. It's my favorite time of the show. Sarah, do you want to give out some awards with us?
Sure.
Do you want to be the honor and start us off with your MVP of Sleepless in Seattle?
Sure. How do you not give it to Tom Hanks? I mean, he's obviously going through a struggle, but still open, I think, without being open at the same time, and that's just something difficult, I think, to do, and to still have the relationship with his son. And I think he had a good relationship with his son, as good as he could be without knowing what he was doing, type of thing.
Oh yeah, he's good at the dad role.
Yeah. And so yeah, he was definitely my MVP.
That reminds me of when he hosted Saturday Night Live. I think this most recent time he portrayed himself as America's dad, and so he gave the country a long
Nice.
talk.
Nice.
It's like, you're coming of age. You're going through some weird things. I understand that. And he put like a sweater on, to kind of be comforting. I was like, oh, Tom Hanks is America's dad. That's very appropriate. So this movie contributed towards that feeling. So, Chad, who's your MVP?
It's Tom Hanks. If you don't get that casting right, this movie just doesn't work. He's probably the reason most people tuned in, and he's the reason people didn't tune out.
It's a clean sweep. I mean, Tom Hanks is great. And to fairness to Nora Ephron, there is good writing here, but I don't think, even with the good writing, it goes without the driver. And that's Tom Hanks. And like I said, he contributed so much along the way, influencing stuff as he does with his role. So Nora Ephron said that Tom Hanks, up through this point in time, had played a lot of childlike or boy-like characters. He has this enthusiasm to him, whether it be something like Dragnet or Big, where he literally is playing a kid, or The Burbs. There's an energetic youthfulness to him. I love that period of him, by the way. But she's right. In the early 90s, he kind of sheds his skin. Philadelphia comes out at the same time, and this is a change in pace. And soon thereafter, you have Forrest Gump. And Tom matures as an actor a lot, and he shows the adult side of him as well. And I love them both. Again, I can reconcile these two because it happened more gradually. Turner and Hooch can actually be the guy from Catch Me If You Can. It's not a Dr. Jones James Bond problem. Sarah, best supporting actor.
I'll get a boo, but I like the kid that played Jonah.
Yes.
Boo.
Yes.
Boo this kid.
I just thought he just had this kind of optimistic outlook at love and his dad and who his dad could be, and he knew who his dad used to be, I think, and he wanted that for his dad, and the kid did that and added some humor too, and I like that.
Yeah, I don't think this movie works without him, but Chad, I'm gonna guess you're not gonna pick Ross Malinger.
I am not. I'm going to pick Rob Reiner, who is Jay.
Oh, okay, that's actually pretty good. I like Rob Reiner a lot in this.
I found him to be my second favorite character. I liked the confusing and very wrong advice. And I wanted him to show up in more scenes, just continuing to give Tom bad advice.
You know what? That's true. He said women just go around, as of 93, that women just go around asking you out. I was like, yeah, that went away.
Yeah. Whatever this magical period of time, it was over 3 years later for me.
Ladies, don't be afraid to ask your love interest out, if that's the case.
Yes,
so,
and
yes.
split checks, any of those throw parades.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good.
I'm throwing no parades.
This is going to be a Rob Reiner sandwich because I'm going to go back to Ross Malinger on this one. I'm going to mirror Sarah on this one. This movie, a big part of the laughs and the heart of this comes from Tom Hanks engaging with him. And if you didn't have a good young actor, I think that's the second place where this really could have gone off the rails. And I think he is a good kid actor. You just like him. And
sure.
Everybody else in America from between Baltimore and Seattle liked him. Even the people in Oklahoma, which is somewhere in the middle. Except for Chad Robinson in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore can't play every child role, Chad.
She should have.
Other children actors are needed.
I don't know what age she was here, but fine, cast her.
Too old is she?
Fine.
So, Sarah, who is your hidden gem?
So I felt like there was a small cast, and so I didn't really feel like there was much of a hidden gem per se, because besides those main characters, there wasn't much that I felt was really fleshed out or anything. So really what I thought of was more the physical separation and that being used as a plot device. And I liked the maps. I talked about that. I liked using that. So it's not really a person. It's more a technique, but that was kind of what I appreciated the most.
Yeah. And Chad, who's your hidden gem?
Rita Wilson. It's Tom Hanks' real life wife, and she played his sister.
Okay, yeah, and it was just kind of fun to have.
Yeah,
the husband.
It's like, hey, Tom Hanks' wife
being a sister.
Yeah.
Okay, and more on her later.
Oh man, poor Rita Wilson.
My hidden gem, I've the actor name, for whatever reason, has slipped me, but I like the guy at the family dinner who's I'm allergic to bees.
Oh.
Oh yes, he was pretty good.
He had this grave seriousness about his face,
and then he's never used again.
No, but I remembered him. And he stole the scene at dinner time. I was like, more bee talk, please.
Fair enough.
Sarah, who would you recast and who would you put in their place?
So I said that I would recast the character Becky, Rosie O'Donnell.
Really?
Yeah.
What did she not do for you?
I felt like she needed to be like a peppy, girly girl that really would get into like the romance of it. And I know that her character did. Enough? No, it was just like she liked the movie, but I didn't really believe her being like, oh, this is so sweet. Like, I wanted her to be like...
So more encouraging. You didn't want her to be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
More of a bubbly character. I know, and that's not who she is.
Okay.
And so I wanted it to be more of a bubbly...
So you want Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde?
Yes. Somebody kind of ditzy, but very optimistic about love. And I really didn't get that out of her until she sent the letter across the country.
Which was nice.
Yeah, but I didn't really get that she was really falling for this love story thing.
I was wondering why the letter was all wrinkled up when I was reading it later on and found it out. So, yeah. Chad, who's your recast?
Yeah, stunningly in a movie with Rosie O'Donnell. I'm not recasting her.
And Ross Malinger, here we go.
No, I am recasting Meg Ryan.
Whoa! Whoa!
I don't like Meg Ryan.
Okay, we talked how likable Tom Hanks is, but I feel like a lot of those qualities go to her. Why?
No.
Why not?
She's not a likable person in this movie whatsoever.
I would contest that, but go on.
Yeah.
She wants magic.
No, she's
Even
kind
Walter
of...
can't blame her. He's
So-
like, yeah, this isn't magic.
I feel like he was more sighing a relief because he dodged a bullet there. He's like, oh, wow.
You don't want to marry somebody who doesn't want to marry you.
She's kind of selfish and psychotic, and yeah. But you have to go with someone that comes off a little sweeter, more affable. I think I'm going with Jennifer Aniston.
I don't.
Russell doesn't like Jennifer Aniston, so he's a little crushed here.
I like Meg Ryan in this one. I won't be recasting her. Okay, but this is your recast. I mean, have I said this before? I don't think you get this movie.
More on that later.
So, my recast, I'm going to double dip here a little bit, because the first one is just, I think, Bill Pullman is too cool to be Walter. He's Lone Star. He's the president of the United States from Independence
yes,
Day.
he is.
He's too cool to be Walter. I like him. He does his job fine, but I think I want Eugene Levy in this. And
How old was he?
he was around.
Yes, he was around.
He was age appropriate.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't he like 70 right now?
Bill Pullman's not like young.
No. That's fine. It's your recast. She can marry
I
up.
feel like I looked it out and they're literally the same age-ish, I think. I'll have to check that, and I might have to cut that later. But I think Pullman and Eugene Levy are close in age.
Okay.
And by the way, when I looked up young pictures of Eugene Levy, I just got pictures of his son. Looks exactly
Yes, he does.
like his dad. It's great. It's like you got no genes from your mom. You're a clone like Boba Fett.
Oh, I want to forget that happened too.
Okay. So anyway, the actual one that I had a bigger issue with in terms of her performance, like I said, Pullman didn't do anything wrong. He's just too cool. Rita Wilson as Susie didn't do it for me, and where she had to deliver like the line when she was crying, and it should be funny how she's getting kind of worked up and stuff like that. I wasn't enjoying it as much until the guy started crying about the Dirty Dozen, which was funny.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go with Rita Wilson will be replaced for Dana Delaney.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So she's in House Sitter and Homewrecker, and Tombstone, which we covered as well. And so I think she's. I think I'm going to pick her here.
I'm a sucker for cameos, like little Easter eggs. So that was fun.
Yeah. Best shot of the movie, Sarah.
So I liked the New Year's Eve fireworks, where Tom Hanks was just sitting outside watching the fireworks, kind of pondering things.
Is this where he's on the chair, just staring into the water?
He might have been on a chair. I don't know. He was on like his deck area, just kind of. The fireworks were there, and
which confusingly were
this
going
is where he
off.
just goes and stands outside.
They were going off at the same time as Baltimore, and I was frustrated by that.
could have been a replay.
Have I said that like you just gotta let some stuff go, like the Seattle geography stuff, man? And in fairness, all the Baltimore stuff was filmed in Seattle, so technically that's time zone correct when you really get into it.
But he was watching it on TV.
Yeah, it made no sense.
Well, when you watch the ball drop, they do say, this is what happened in China. This is what happened in Egypt. And they show fireworks around the world. That's pretty common, actually.
Yeah, but it was established it was midnight there. He woke Jonah up.
Okay. I was sad that back then, some of those nighttime shots in the dock, if you were shooting that today, you would use supplementary lighting to show
I
a little
did
more
notice
definition around
the
it.
lighting was a little dark, but
I
I
thought that-
liked the moment of it.
Yeah. Chad, best shot.
There's a wide-angle shot at the restaurant with Annie, Walter, and the fake Empire State Building with the heart
It is
on
fake,
it.
sorry.
So, CGI'd, but...
It's hard to close off the whole top of the Empire State Building logistically for a film, in fairness, but yeah.
Yeah. And hard to get that kind of restaurant view.
Yes, also true. My best shot's going to be the transition of the elevator doors. The elevator doors close, and it has a really neat embossed kind of print on the doors, and then they zoom out, and that's the CGI version of the Empire State Building.
Those were the nicest New York elevator operators. They're just like, hey, this lady's in love. It's fine if you make us work extra hours. That is never going to happen.
Well, the cab drivers were appropriate, though.
Yeah, she didn't pay the cab. To add to how horrible she is, she didn't pay the cabbie either. She is stealing from work. She's not paying people. She's cheating.
Interesting. Okay. Now, Sarah,
Yes.
what's your best scene of the movie?
I like the scene on the beach with Sam and Jonah where they're just playing and just showing how he was a good dad.
And we wouldn't have that if she wasn't doing her due diligence to make sure he was legit.
We could have seen that entirely without her doing the creepy cat in the hat behind a house.
All right. And Chad, your best scene?
Sam's fight with Jonah where he's mad and he begins ranting about how he was going to get laid. And he starts talking about his college years and he gets disappointed. He's like, because Jonah asks something like, how many times? It's like 7. And then he gets really excited. He's like, no, 8. He gets really excited at 8. There's a weird line in there though, because he's like, it's really not that much. Like 8 different partners in 4 years is not that much. Like, again, 1993 was a wild time.
My best scenes in the movie is going to be the kind of the radio show call-in where the boy's on one phone and his dad's on the other, and they have these epically long phone cords. That had such long phone cords.
They used to.
Yeah.
We used to always have
The
those.
little squiggly part was long though, not the whole phone part. Like they were they were walking all over the house with that. I was like, what are we doing? We can go outside with this now? So yeah, that was the portable phone comes on hand shortly thereafter. But no, that was a good. I like the scene, and then simultaneously Andy's driving in that scene, and you see her face, and she does a good job of face acting here. So sorry, Chad.
There was Christmas music in that scene. It made it worse.
Yeah. Change one thing, Sarah.
Okay, so I just talked about the father and son on the beach, and Chad was talking about how he didn't like Annie stalking. My change one thing would be that Annie just never went out to Seattle. Like,
That's a good start.
I don't feel like, yeah, they saw each other, but I feel like you still could have had some tension building without her flying all the way out there.
Okay. Chad, change one thing, and only one thing.
This was a little hard. I really, really don't like the fact that Annie is engaged. I had a really difficult time connecting with her character because she's selfish, she's lying, she's using people. I really disliked her for that. She stalks Sam, hires a PI, leads Walter along the entire time. She's talking about openly with her friends cheating on him when they get to New York to pick out their registry items. So it would feel a lot less bad if she weren't in a deeply committed relationship.
Is she leading him on, or is she trying to make it work?
I think she's trying to fit in a place where she knows she kind of doesn't.
Right.
When they're talking about New York and she's talking about slipping away to go meet Sam, like, that's leading him on at that point.
Okay. My change one thing is going to be, I'd like to make Jessica a little worse. Like, maybe she clearly was interested in Tom Hanks, but I felt like maybe she was just more, like, she did have, like, she seemed shallow, but at the same time, I still got the shallow in terms of depth. Like, she doesn't seem like a very interesting person, but I felt like it would have been better if she did seem like she genuinely wanted to be there, and she wanted to fit the role. I felt like I would prefer her to be a little more flawed, other than having a bad laugh.
Victoria,
yeah,
she did.
Oh, sorry, Victoria.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I said Jessica. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was weird. It's like the one fatal flaw is she laughs like a hyena.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So I say lean into that just a little bit more, and have Tom Hanks be like, nobody's perfect, and I'm not trying to get used to it himself. So maybe he tolerates a little bit more at first too. So could be more comedy to mine there.
Yeah.
Now, Sarah, what is your best quote of the movie?
So I'm gonna go the cheesy route. What Tom Hanks' character said, it was a million tiny little things, when you added them all up, they meant we were supposed to be together, and I knew it. I knew it the first time I touched her. It was like coming home, only to no home I'd ever known. I was just taking her hand to help her out of a car, and I knew it. It was like magic.
You would get a lot of women across America to
Write you letters.
Pine over you if you said that. Those are good words. Chad, who is your best quote?
Rosie O'Donnell. She had a line in reference to an affair to remember where she said, "Men just don't get this movie." And I kind of felt like that was said for me and simultaneously about Sleepless in Seattle.
Okay. Mine, and there's a couple good ones here, but I'm going to go with when Sam said, "There's no way we're going on a plane to meet some woman who would be crazy, sick lunatic. Haven't you seen Fatal Attraction?" And then Jonah's like, "You wouldn't let me." Well, I saw it. It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
It scared the crap out of every man in America.
That was an excellent point.
That was so good. I liked that. And I also did enjoy the conversation he had about dating with his son. He's like, "She flips her hair a lot. I don't know what's the deal. Does she need a haircut? Like, is it a nervous tick? I'm just dating her. These are things I'm willing to get to the bottom of."
That was a good line.
My secondary one was Jonah. A hoe, my dad's been captured by a hoe.
Good stuff.
Brian Fry just pops up in my head doing the use a hoe. Did that all the way through high school.
All right. And so now it's time to give this movie a rating on a 5-star scale, half-star intervals. Sarah, what would you rate Sleepless in Seattle?
I'll go with a solid 4.
Nice.
I have a hard time giving out high ratings, so that's not bad for me.
That's a good rating. Yeah.
It's an excellent rating.
Now, Chad, what would you rate Sleepless in Seattle?
I am going to give it an enthusiastic, because we're not going to negative town, 1.5 stars.
Oh, man.
I feel so
That's
bad.
the lowest rating in the history of the show.
Wow. Okay. Well, I am enthusiastic and positive about it. I feel really bad for Walter, whose deep flaw is having allergies. I have allergies. I could be Walter. And
You are not Walter.
I feel like I'm Walter. He's my soul animal here. And I also feel, I made this point earlier, you reverse the genders. This is a horror movie. So I was really disappointed by the infidelity, the whole magic and selfish and immature actions, in my opinion. So it made me sad. I wanted better for this.
Okay. I'm going to match Sarah and go with a 4.
Wow.
Yeah. My expectations were completely exceeded. I like that when a movie does that, and I would enjoy watching this one again. So I will remember it, and I will remember certain parts of it for sure. And I'll probably refer to certain parts of it again. Like these are things I'm willing to get to the bottom of. It seems like something I could see myself saying. And I now, a Fatal Attraction will have another reference for sure out of this one. Or tiramisu. So
Tiramisu is good, for the record.
I never had tiramisu until I started dating, so he made an excellent point. Rob Reiner did get one right.
And so, yeah, I'm going to go with 4. So, all right, Chad, you want to pick a movie for next time?
I would love to.
All right. We're going to be immortal.
Okay.
This next one. So this one's for the ages. So option number 1, Dorian Gray from 2009. A corrupt young man somehow keeps his youthful beauty eternal, but a special painting gradually reveals his inner ugliness to all. Number 2, Jet Li, The One. Or Jet Li is the one, is what it says. And, well, basically Jet Li... This is the IMDb summary. I don't know what to do with this. Okay. Jet Li becomes a dimensional time traveler and has to go to all the other dimensions fighting the other Jet Lis until there is only one, and he becomes more powerful than each one he beats. And on a similar note, The Highlander, or just Highlander actually, from 1986. An immortal Scottish swordsman must confront the last of his immortal opponents and a murderously brutal barbarian who lusts for fabled prize.
There can be only one. And no, I'm not referencing Jet Li, although that's a cool movie too. Check that out. Highlander.
Highlander it is. Sarah, thank you for coming on the show.
No problem.
And Chad, thank you as always.
Thank you.
All the lords, ladies and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, we invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you, so subscribe, rate, and review to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @movie_retro. Email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other, and watch more movies. Chad?
Princess Bride said it best. Love, true love, will follow you forever.